And during his time in New York, Premier Lee also met with a group of leading figures in the country's financial, think tank and media circles. Our New York correspondent Nathan King tells us what was discussed.
The Economic Club of New York, which is a very influential organization here in New York. Li Keqiang, the keynote speaker, introduced by Henry Kissinger, of course, who, with other Chinese officials like Zhou Enlai 45 years ago, helped bring the US and China back together again. And as Li Keqiang said, led to something which is quite remarkable. A third of all global trade is now between the US and China. China accounting for 50% of global growth at the moment. But it was a reassuring speech as well from Li Keqiang about China's lowering growth rate. He said even though because of the world financial crisis trade is down, that China's growth rate between 6 and 7% is needed. It's a more stable growth rate and will help bring the remaining Chinese out of poverty, stressing that China is still a developing country, unlike the US, which is a developed country. And he also encouraged his US audience to invest in China and allow more Chinese investment in the US, and said that even though they may have differences on some issues, the interdependence of the economies was actually an engine for global growth, and therefore more rules to make it easier to trade and invest should be established. So it was a very, very high-level speech. The New York Economic Club is very powerful, lots of Wall Street types and lots of influential policymakers as well. He also met earlier with former US Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, who was Treasury Secretary at the time of the US economic crisis, and the former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, as well. He actually made a joke about Chinese people buying Apple iPhones at the rate of one every 2 seconds while he was in the Big Apple, New York. And of course, the two countries are working on a bilateral investment treaty where China would like to see more Chinese products like Huawei products, technology products, sold in the US. So there's lots of discussions like that.